My name is Nana Francisca Schottländer. I am from Denmark. I live in Copenhagen. And I work in the intersection between dance, performance and installation, mostly site-specific, and quite often in collaboration with non-human entities, such as landscapes, natural phenomena, rocks, fungi, soil, etc. So for the residency Performative Landscapes, I have had sort of a dual or a triple role in that I have been the so-called lead artist of the residency, which means that I guess my practice has sort of informed in a way the direction of the residency, as well as trying out some of my own methods of interacting with the landscape and figuring out how to translate these ways of relating or co-creating with a landscape to others than myself. So the title Performative Landscapes, the title of the residency, is to me very closely related to what I do, because I am curious about how a landscape not only becomes a setting for a performance or the backdrop of human activity or a pretty picture, but how do we evoke the performative potentials of the landscape itself? How do we enable the performances of the landscape to become visible to others, and how do we co-perform with the landscape, not just in it? I've been working in an area called Yo de Podel, which is sort of new land, new territory, built up of the soil that has been dug out from building sites, construction sites, metro, etc., to create a new part of Copenhagen that's coming into existence. And I'm curious about this new land and how it evolves, and the choreography of the soil traveling from one place to another, and what it means for human and other than human entities. For the past half year or so, I've been visiting the place regularly, trying to establish some sort of relationship with it, trying to understand what this landscape is all about, who lives there, when, how do different entities negotiate space there, not only the humans with their big trucks unloading dirt and creating hills and flattening them out, but all the other entities that find their way in there and live there for shorter or longer periods of time. I went out there also with two of the other residents to try out some movement scores or some ways of perceiving and relating physically with the landscape. And we will be doing that also tomorrow with the whole group. We're going to explore the affordances of the landscape. Affordances is like a term coined for architecture and design, to say what a certain structure affords for interaction, like a chair affords to sit on, to stand on, maybe to turn around, put upside down. But so every place sort of invites for an interaction or an exchange. And I'm curious as to how a landscape with all the different structures and details there, what affordances are there for exchanges and relations and meetings. I'm going to try out different points of view, because even the people looking at the people doing something or relating with the landscape, the spectator is part of the image too, and then the person looking at that is part of the landscape too. So all these different positions for perceiving structures in a landscape, both the human and the non-human ones. But I think what I have come to understand is interesting and important for me is to try and step away from a human-centered approach to creation, to artistic creation, to try and explore what artistic creation means if it's driven in a collaboration between human and other than human. So I'm constantly trying to challenge myself to find ways to be available for the co-creational potentials, and it's difficult and silly, and sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes it becomes something else than I expected. But this ongoing research into how to enter into some sort of equality, an equal relation with all the things that are present with me, and how to create from that point is what I'm very curious about. I guess with each landscape you never know what it is you are going to resonate with. You can do a lot of research and think, oh, this landscape is about this and that, and this is what is going on, and I think what will be interesting to research here is this and that. But then as soon as you dive in, that research is still part of what is happening, but also you have to become present with what is actually really here, like this or this or this, whatever is, you know, asking for exchange or exploration. And I think whenever I become present like that, I become really surprised at like the revelations taking place when I try asking into, okay, who are you? How are you here? What does it do to me to try and relate to that? And like some examples. Recently we did an improvisation in a bushy environment, and I had a wonderful contact improvisation with some tall yellow flowers called Regnfan, where I had this moment of, you know, you tend to produce movement or to express something or to think in advance, and I had this moment of like leaning into them and then somehow feeling an impulse coming for a movement that was coming from them, not from me. And this shift in perception of how we are here together, humans and others, is interesting. And yeah, so I mean there's lots of questions around this that which is in part also what I've been trying to figure out during this residency. It's like how is it possible to create a framework for others to dive into these ways of relating and being. And I would also like to be able to do it live, to do these performances live, but sometimes that means like people looking at me lying in the same position for 2 hours. I mean, I'm not sure it's that interesting. With video you can edit it, but I don't know, maybe it's interesting. That's the future explorations. Yeah.